Hello, thank you so much for watching. I'm John Windsor-Cunningham. The happiness of being an actor. I thought it'd be good to have wonderful to have a video to remind us all, very experienced actors and new actors, that this job, despite all the hassles and the heartaches and the worries and everything else that is a problem with the business at times, that it isn't just something we look forward to being a wonderful job when we're young, that there is a happiness about the job. And it's not just working with people who are wonderful and become great friends. There is a happiness about being an actor. And so I want to make a little video about that. And in order to tell you about this happiness, which happens at the end of this story, I need to explain about this job that I've just done. So please bear with me while I tell you this story, which in fact involves some amount of happiness. I got phoned up by my agent and they wanted me to go along for an audition for a play with a company that I've already worked for. So I was feeling quite good about that because obviously if they'd already used me before and they were asking to see me, they must think I'm possibly right for the part. And it was quite a nice part, and I had 3 or 4 days in advance to look at the part and learn the lines of this scene. So I went in well prepared for the audition, and it went very well, and I came away and I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited. Lots of days passed. I think a week passed. Not a word from them. And then I got a word from my agent saying they wanted me to go back in. I thought it was a recall, but they wanted me to read for this scene with 3 actresses of this other part. And I really wasn't clear about whether they wanted me to read in at the auditions for these other actresses, they wanted me to be the reader, or whether they wanted me to read this other part, which was an enormous part, the lead role in the play, which I really hadn't thought about playing at all. Anyway, I studied this particular scene that I thought they'd want me to run through with these actresses for a few days and learnt that as well, and went in and it went very well, and I waited a week and still no word from them, and suddenly I got a word from my agent saying that I got the job. They'd given me the lead in this play. Now, first thing about this happiness, we don't always really want jobs, not a lot, but when it's a job that you really want, and you know you've done a good audition, and you just believe you're going to get the job, and then you do, and you got 3 weeks before rehearsals begin. So there are 72 pages of the script were mine, this huge part, and between 3 weeks that meant if I learnt whatever it is, 1 act in each week before rehearsals began, I could learn the whole part before rehearsals started, something I like to do. And so my best friend, Sharon Fogarty, fantastic director, she came by every weekend to go through my lines for Act 1 and then the next weekend my lines for Act 2, so that I'd have to have them ready, so that by the time I started rehearsals I knew all the lines. So I was feeling quite confident about that. But by the second day, I was already beginning to worry whether I was going to be as good as the first day, and the director was saying that I wasn't as strong as I was supposed to be in the part. And this was a part of a man who is seriously strong. They needed Clint Eastwood for it. And if you ever meet Clint Eastwood, he's not just that way in his films. He's a powerful man all of the time. It needed John Malkovich, it needed Gene Hackman, it needed Tony Hopkins, this role. And they got me. And I really found it very hard in rehearsals. I didn't really understand all of the part. I had to be in love with this much younger woman in the play, and I wasn't really clear whether I was pretending to be in love with her because I wanted not to be distracted by my son, or whether it was just lust, or whether I was really in love with her. I just really didn't have the play sorted out. And I can't explain all of that in a 10-minute video, but it just wasn't real. It just wasn't together. The part didn't completely make sense. But it made quite a lot of sense. It seemed to fit into quite a lot of my own life. And they seemed very happy in rehearsals. And one day... And, I'm bragging now, but, I've done lots and lots of parts in my life in which I was terrible, but, so excuse me showing off on this one occasion. One day when I was feeling a little bit down about it in rehearsals, one of the actors took me aside and he said, "John, I've got to tell you this, John, you're one of the great actors. You're a great actor." And no one had ever called me great before. I've been called quite good, and sometimes they were right. But I'd never been called great, and for a moment I believed it. I thought, yeah, I can be great in this role. It's a great role. It's one of those great roles that you live your life waiting to play. A role that takes over the stage. So I was more and more excited about it, and by the first night, when it came to the first night, this is true, I was so scared waiting to go on stage on the first night. More scared than I've ever been in my life. I was actually thinking about pretending to faint so that I wouldn't have to go on and do it. I just didn't think it was going to happen. I was going to have to empty my mind and go on and let it happen to me. And I thought I might go on and it might be rather wet. Anyway, the show went well. The Wall Street Times and Wall Street Journal and all the other newspapers went mad about it and were very kind about me. And I really haven't been wonderful in lots and lots of shows, but you can Google me. I'm telling the truth. It went very well. And here we're coming to the happiness part. Because yes, it was exciting to be doing this important new play in New York that everyone was coming to see. And some members of the audience afterwards would get hold of me and ask me to go back to their place. I mean, I was really getting a lot of attention. But what really happened that made a difference to my life with this was that towards the end of the run, the Lincoln Center Library, I'm sorry I don't remember its proper name, but it makes these famous films of important productions in New York for history, for its collection. And they came along and they filmed the play one night. So that when it came to the end of the run, I was able to go along and watch myself do this show. Now, if you got a chance in life, imagine, when you're dead, if you could look down on your life from heaven and see how you live your life, see yourself there in the past. Tell yourself, no, you should have done this, don't worry about that. This is good, this is bad. This is going to be a mistake, this is going to be your success route. To see yourself. The excitement of seeing myself, trying to do my best, and maybe failing. I couldn't wait to see this performance. And I went to see it, and there were one or two things in it at the beginning where I thought, yes, if I'd stayed strong there. Some actors like Pitt and Tony Hopkins, they come on strong at the beginning of a scene and they stay strong. They stay like that. And I didn't do that. I weakened here and there, but it was all right. And then there was a moment, and maybe I shouldn't bother with boring you about this, but the point is that I learned something. I learned how to be, and this is the thing about it. This is the thing about acting. This is the excitement about acting. This is the thing that makes us happy. This is the thing that we do it for. I became a better actor from doing it. What could possibly, on God's earth, make me happier? Hard to imagine. It made me a better actor doing the show. So of course, that's the happiness of being an actor, that you become a better one. What actually happened was that there was a scene in the play when I asked this woman to marry me, and she says no. I really tried to ask her to marry me, and she says no. And I lose my temper afterwards. And I did it quite well, and the shouting, the strength of my voice was very impressive, and my anger was very strong. But when I watched it on the video, I could see something I never knew before. I was never clever enough to understand that some people sometimes loneliness makes you angry. I never knew that. I never knew that. Loneliness makes you angry. And God Almighty, I realised that if I'd realised that when I was doing the part, when she said no, she wouldn't marry me, I could have shaken the roof with my anger. It would have poured out of me. I'd have been a better actor. I'm not saying I'd have been Tony Hopkins, or John Malkovich, or Gene Hackman, or Mark Rylance. But I'd have been much better. And I now can be if I got the chance of doing that play again, or anything like it. The happiness of being an actor is that we become better actors. Thank you for watching.